The day Dad died, the air in the funeral home was thick with the scent of lilies and unspoken resentment. I stood by the coffin, my designer suit feeling like armor, watching the few mourners offer their condolences. They all said the same things, platitudes about how he was a good man, a pillar of the community. They didn't know the man I knew, the man who had pitted my sister, Sarah, and me against each other our whole lives. They also didn't know the game I was about to win. Sarah arrived late, of course. She was wearing a simple black dress that looked like it had been bought off a rack at a chain store. Her face was swollen from crying, and her eyes, red and puffy, found mine across the room. A flicker of hope, or was it a plea, passed between us. I met it with a cold, unwavering stare. We were sisters by blood, but strangers by choice, a choice forged by years of my father's favoritism and my own ambition. The real show was at the lawyer's office the next day. The will reading. I sat with my back straight, a confident smirk playing on my lips. Sarah sat opposite me, wringing her hands, her anxiety palpable. The lawyer, Mr. Henderson, cleared his throat and began. The will was long, filled with legal jargon, but the key parts were clear. The house, the businesses, the stocks, they were all mine. I had spent years, my entire adult life, proving my worth to Dad, managing his company, expanding his legacy. Sarah had chosen to be an artist, a dreamer, a disappointment in Dad's eyes. When Mr. Henderson finished, a heavy silence filled the room. Sarah looked at me, a tear escaping her eye. "This can't be right," she whispered. I leaned forward, my voice low and laced with triumph. "You'll get nothing," I told her, the words tasting sweet on my tongue. I told my sister at the reading, and made sure she got even less. I watched the last bit of fight drain from her face. She stood up slowly, her shoulders slumped, and walked out without another word. The game was over, and I had won. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to the channel for more captivating content. Winning felt hollow, a victory celebrated in an empty room. Dad's house, a sprawling mansion in the suburbs, now belonged to me. The place was a mausoleum of his memories, each room a testament to his life and my relentless pursuit of his approval. I walked through the silent halls, the echo of my footsteps the only sound. The grandeur that had once symbolized success now felt like a cage. The weight of his legacy was a physical burden on my shoulders. My victory over Sarah was supposed to bring me peace, a sense of finality, but instead, a gnawing emptiness began to grow inside me. I was the heir, the successful daughter, the one who had made all the right choices. Yet, I was also alone. My friends were more of a network than a support system, people I'd cultivated for professional gain, not emotional comfort. My phone, once filled with calls and messages, was now eerily silent. The first hint of trouble came from the businesses. A key client, someone Dad had handled personally, chose to sever ties. He cited a lack of personal touch and a change in management style. My style was efficient, ruthless, and devoid of the easy charm Dad had used to build his empire. I dismissed it as a minor setback, a mere hiccup in my grand plan. A few days later, another client followed suit, then another. The perfect facade of my inheritance began to crack. The company, which had run like a well-oiled machine under my father, was starting to sputter under my command. I found myself working longer hours, the stress mounting with each new problem. I couldn't call Dad for advice, and I had no one else to turn to. The silence in the house, once a symbol of my solitary triumph, now felt like a prison, amplifying the sounds of my own rising panic. I had everything I ever wanted, but the cost was proving to be far greater than I could have ever imagined. The cracks in my perfect life were widening. The businesses were hemorrhaging money, and the staff who had been loyal to my father were becoming resentful. I demanded more from them, pushing them to their limits, but all I received was quiet insubordination and whispered complaints. I tried to command respect, but I only earned fear. They saw me as the cold-hearted daughter who had ousted her own sister, a reputation that preceded me in every meeting. I was living in the house alone, surrounded by luxury, but feeling a profound sense of isolation. I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before. The way the streetlights cast long, lonely shadows on the lawn at night. The oppressive quiet that settled over the neighborhood after dark. The house, which had been a symbol of my success, now felt like a lonely monument to my mistakes. I found myself walking through the empty rooms, the ghost of my father's presence everywhere, judging me for my failures. One evening, while looking for some old business files in Dad's study, I came across a small, leather-bound notebook tucked away in a drawer. It wasn't a business ledger or a financial record. It was Dad's personal diary. My initial thought was to throw it away, to erase all traces of the past, but a morbid curiosity made me open it. The first entry was from years ago, a time when Sarah and I were just teenagers. Dad wrote about how proud he was of me, but also how he worried that my ambition would blind me to the people who truly mattered. He wrote about Sarah's kind heart and how he wished I could see the good in her, the way he did. The words felt like a punch to the gut. The narrative I had built my life around, that Sarah was the disappointment and I was the chosen one, began to crumble. Dad's diary painted a different picture, one of a conflicted father who saw the strengths and weaknesses in both his daughters. He wasn't pitting us against each other. He was trying to prepare us for the world in his own, deeply flawed way. He wrote of his regret, of the distance he had inadvertently created between us. My victory, my entire life's work, was built on a lie. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, leaving me gasping for air in the silent, empty room. The diary became my constant companion, a ghost of my father's voice. I devoured its pages, each entry a new revelation, a new twist on the story I thought I knew. He wrote about the time I got a promotion, celebrating my achievement but also lamenting that I had missed Sarah's first art show that same night. He detailed how he had tried to help Sarah secretly with her art studio, a detail I had never known, because she was too proud to accept his money openly. He saw her as an independent spirit, not a disappointment. My image of the world, of my family, was shattering. I had always believed Dad's love was a prize to be won, a finite resource that had to be earned by being the better daughter. The diary showed me it was something else entirely, a complicated, flawed, and unconditional love he had for both of us, a love I was too busy competing for to ever truly see. The business problems worsened. The key clients I had lost were now being courted by my competitors. My reputation as a heartless heir was spreading, and it was beginning to affect my bottom line. I was in over my head, drowning in a sea of my own making. I had no one to turn to, no mentor, no friend, no sister. The silence in the house was no longer just lonely. It was deafening. I found myself sitting in Dad's study, the diary open on his desk, tears streaming down my face. I finally understood. My father's will wasn't a prize. It was a test. He gave me everything because he knew I had the business acumen to handle it. But he also left me with nothing. No emotional support, no family, no love. He forced me to confront the consequences of my own actions, to see what my singular focus on winning had cost me. I had everything I had ever wanted, but I had lost everything that truly mattered. I had alienated the one person who could have helped me, the one person who understood our shared history. I had a choice to make, but I was terrified it was too late. If you're finding yourself invested in this character's journey, please subscribe to the channel to not miss the next episode. Driven by a desperate impulse, I decided I had to find Sarah. I needed to apologize, to explain, I didn't even know what I needed to do. I just knew I couldn't be alone in that house. with the weight of my father's memory and my own failures. I remembered a passing comment Dad had made in his diary about Sarah's favorite coffee shop near her art studio. It was a long shot, but it was all I had. The coffee shop was small and bustling, filled with the aroma of roasted beans and the chatter of people. I scanned the room, my heart pounding in my chest. Then I saw her. She was sitting at a small table in the corner, her head bent over a sketchbook, a cup of coffee steaming in front of her. She looked different, more at peace than I had ever seen her. The lines of stress around her eyes were gone, replaced by a quiet contentment. I walked toward her, my expensive heels clicking on the wooden floor, the sound feeling jarring and out of place. She looked up as I approached, her expression a mix of surprise and guardedness. "Sarah," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I need to talk to you." She stared at me for a long moment, her eyes searching my face for a hint of the sister she once knew. "I don't think we have anything to talk about," she said, her voice calm but firm. I placed the worn leather diary on the table between us. Her eyes widened slightly as she recognized it. "I found this," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Dad's diary. I was wrong about so many things." I told her about the business's failing, about the loneliness, about the realization that my victory was nothing more than an empty prize. She listened, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. The silence was agonizing, each second stretching into an eternity. Finally, she looked at the diary, then at me. "Why did you really come here?" she asked, her voice soft. "Are you just looking for me to fix your problems?" Her question was a mirror, reflecting the ugly truth of my own selfishness. My motive was not just to apologize, but also to find a solution to my mess. I had to be honest, not just with her, but with myself. Her question hung in the air between us, a stark reminder of the person I had been. I took a deep breath, pushing past my pride. "I came because I'm drowning," I admitted, my voice breaking. "But it's not just about the businesses. It's about everything. I've spent my whole life trying to win, and I've lost everything that matters." I looked at her, my eyes pleading. "I don't expect you to fix anything. I don't want to be alone anymore." Something in my confession must have reached her. The guardedness in her eyes softened, replaced by a flicker of the old Sarah, the one who used to bandage my scraped knees when we were kids. She reached across the table and picked up the diary, her fingers tracing the worn leather cover. "Dad was complicated," she said, her voice filled with a mix of affection and pain. "He loved us both, but he didn't know how to show it without making it a competition. We talked for hours, not as rivals, but as sisters. We reread passages from the diary, laughed at his terrible jokes, and cried over his poignant regrets. I learned about the life she had built for herself, the small victories and big dreams of an artist. She had a close circle of friends, a vibrant community, and a sense of purpose that my life of luxury was sorely lacking. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. As the cafe emptied out, she looked at me with a weary but understanding smile. "I can't just fix your problems," she said gently. "But I can listen. We can start there." The offer was a lifeline, a small thread of hope in the darkness I had created. I felt a sense of relief wash over me, a feeling I hadn't experienced since before Dad's death. It was a small beginning, a tiny step toward a long road of reconciliation. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel so alone. Our meetings at the coffee shop became a regular occurrence. We talked about our childhoods and shared our different memories of Dad. I confessed my struggles with the failing business, and Sarah, instead of judging me, offered a new perspective. "Dad never just talked about business," she said. "He built relationships, not just contracts. Her words were a revelation. I had focused so much on cold logic that I'd forgotten the human element. Sarah, with her empathy, helped me see that the problem was me. I was a boss, not a leader. She encouraged me to talk to the staff about their lives, not just their work. It was awkward at first, but slowly a shift began. The first breakthrough came when I helped an employee with a personal problem. The gratitude on his face was a revelation. It was about connection, not power. I had spent my life building a fortress of success, only to find true strength in vulnerability. The road ahead was long, but for the first time, I felt like I had a true partner, a sister. There was a flicker of hope. If you're captivated by this journey of redemption, please subscribe to the channel and join our community. With Sarah's help, I started making small changes at the company. I organized a team picnic, something Dad used to do. The initial skepticism of the staff faded as we talked and laughed. For the first time, I felt like part of a team, not just their commander. Sarah's gentle wisdom was a guiding light. She didn't give me solutions, but perspective. "You have to earn their trust back," she would say. I spent more time on the factory floor, listening to their concerns. The change was slow but real, and morale improved. The business problems became manageable, and we started winning back clients. I began to understand that the company's success depended on our collective effort, not my individual brilliance. Relying on others was a difficult but liberating lesson. The biggest change, however, was in my relationship with Sarah. She became a constant presence in my life. The years of resentment dissolved, replaced by genuine affection. I even started helping her with her art studio. I saw the joy she found in her work, a passion that had nothing to do with money. She was happy, and her happiness was infectious. I had finally found what I was looking for, not in a will, but in a sister. The day the company finally turned a profit again, I didn't celebrate alone. Sarah met me at the office, and we shared a sense of accomplishment. "No, we did it," I corrected her when she said I had done it alone. "I couldn't have done it without you." The business was stable, and my relationship with my sister was stronger than ever. The lonely mansion no longer felt like a cage. With Sarah's help, it was becoming a home. The story of my victory was a lie. The real victory wasn't the inheritance, but realizing what I had almost lost. I had been so consumed with proving my worth to Dad that I hadn't realized my worth was a choice I could make for myself. The money and businesses were no longer the most important things in my life. They were a means to an end. The real life was in the shared laughter with my sister and the quiet moments of reflection. I had finally learned my father's lesson and found a place of peace and genuine happiness. I had finally found my home, not in a house, but in a family. One rainy afternoon, Sarah and I sat in Dad's study, the room now filled with her art and our books. It no longer felt like a place of judgment, but of memory and new beginnings. We looked at old photos, and I saw a picture of Dad with his arms around both of us, a proud smile on his face. In that moment, I finally understood what he had always wanted for us: to be a family. "I'm sorry," I said to Sarah, the words flowing freely. "I'm so sorry for what I said, for what I did. You deserved better." A tear rolled down her cheek, and she squeezed my hand. "It's okay," she said. "We both lost our way for a while. The important thing is that we found each other again." My journey from a heartless victor to a person who valued connection was long and painful. The inheritance became a catalyst for change, forcing me to confront my life's emptiness. I had learned that the most valuable things, love, family, and connection, can't be inherited. They must be earned. I had lost everything, only to gain back something infinitely more precious. The story of my victory was a story of my ultimate defeat, and in the end, my redemption. I was finally, truly, at peace. If you've been moved by this story and want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for our next series. Thanks for watching.